I rolled into the campground late and grabbed a site far enough from the bathrooms that it was quiet, but close enough I could still see a couple other camps through the trees. Nothing fancy. Truck backed in, tent up, small fire, ate, crawled into the sleeping bag. Sometime in the night, I woke up to a sound at my table. Plastic. A light thump. Something sliding across wood. I didn't move. I listened with my eyes open, counting seconds. The sound wasn't clumsy like an animal. It was controlled, like somebody placing something down carefully. Then my tent zipper ticked. Just a touch, like someone tested it and decided not to commit. Silence after that. No footsteps walking away, no light. Just the campground going dead quiet again. I waited a full minute, then unzipped my tent a few inches and looked out. My headlamp caught my picnic table first. There was a cooler sitting on it. White, mid-size, clean, handle standing up. That cooler wasn't mine. I stepped out and walked up slow. My truck was still there, doors closed, nothing looked disturbed. I put my hand on the cooler lid and felt the cold through the plastic. Condensation was beating on top. It had fresh ice in it. I opened it. Ice, bottled water, hot dogs, sliced cheese, 2 energy drinks, apples, all sealed, all normal, packed neat. No note, no name, no receipt. I shut it and stood there with that thick, heavy feeling you get when something is wrong but you can't label it yet. I called out once, loud enough for the closest sights. "Anybody missing a cooler?" Nothing answered. No zippers, no doors, no voices. I sat up until first light with my keys in my pocket and my headlamp beside me. I kept watching the road that ran past my site, waiting for somebody to wander over and laugh like it was a mistake. Nobody came. When the host station opened up, I carried the cooler down there. The camp host was already outside with coffee. Older guy, radio clipped to his shoulder. I set the cooler on the counter and said, "This showed up at my table overnight." He stared at it like he didn't like what it meant. He checked the sides like he expected a name somewhere. "What site?" he asked. I told him. He looked up at me, then down at the cooler again. "You alone?" he said. "Yeah." He nodded like that fit a pattern. "Don't eat anything out of it. I'll handle it." I waited for questions. He didn't ask any. He turned his head slightly and spoke into the radio, low and quick. I went back to my site, trying to force it into a normal category. Wrong site, somebody drunk, somebody new to camping. Anything that ends with a shrug. I made coffee and stayed busy. Packed loose gear, cleaned up trash, tried to act like I wasn't scanning every gap in the trees. Mid-morning, I walked to the restroom. 10 minutes, maybe less. I came back and stopped in the middle of my campsite. The cooler was on my picnic table again. Same cooler, same spot, handle up. I didn't walk up right away. I looked around first. Neighboring sites were calm. People making breakfast, a kid on a bike, someone slamming a car door in the distance. Nobody was watching me. Nobody looked like they'd just carried a cooler through the trees. I walked up to the table. The cooler was still cold. Condensation on the lid again, like it had been kept chilled, not dragged around in the sun. Next to it was a clear, disposable glove. Thin, cheap, the kind you see in a kitchen or a janitor cart. It was laid flat on the tabletop, fingers straight, like someone placed it carefully. I didn't open the cooler. I didn't touch the glove. I backed away and got in my truck. I drove straight to the host station. He took one look at my face and said, "It's back." I nodded. He set his coffee down and grabbed his radio. This time, he didn't keep it quiet. I heard my site number and the word cooler and again. He looked at me and said, "Go back. Stay in your truck. Don't touch it." I drove back and parked where I could see my table without being boxed in. I sat there with the engine off, windows up, watching the cooler like it was a live thing. About 20 minutes later, the host cart came down my road with another staff guy behind him. They walked into my site together, both scanning the ground. The host stopped at the table and pointed at the glove without touching it. The other guy took out a small trash bag and, with his own gloves on, lifted the glove into it like it was evidence. They opened the cooler. The host leaned in, checked the contents, and said something I couldn't hear. The staff guy nodded once. Tight. Then they did something that made my stomach drop. They didn't take it to Lost and Found. They carried it away like they were removing a problem, not returning property. The host walked over to my truck and motioned for me to crack the window. "Pack up," he said. "I'm moving you to a different site near the office." "Why?" I asked. He paused like he was choosing words that wouldn't start a panic. "Because somebody's messing with you, and I don't like the way they're doing it." I packed in a hurry. Tent down, gear tossed, straps sloppy. I kept looking at the tree line like I expected somebody to step out and wave. They stuck me in a site near the host station, basically under a yard light. I tried to tell myself that was enough, that if somebody wanted to mess with me, they wouldn't do it with staff 10 yards away. But when it got dark, I still couldn't sleep. That night, from the site near the office, I could see across the loop into the darker section where my old spot was. I couldn't sleep anyway. I sat out in a camp chair with a dying little fire, just feeding it enough to keep a glow going. More for my own head than for warmth. Every time I started to nod off, I'd jolt awake and stare into the trees like I was expecting something to step out. Sometime around 2 a.m., I saw a headlamp moving through my old campsite. It wasn't bouncing around like someone looking for the bathroom. It went straight to my picnic table and stopped there. The light stayed pointed down at the tabletop, like they were checking something. I sat there watching, not moving, barely breathing, waiting for the head to turn toward me. It didn't. The light just clicked off. 1 second it was there, the next it was pure black again, like the person disappeared into the trees without making a sound. I stayed up the rest of the night with that fire burning down to coals, staring at the spot where the light had been, waiting for it to come back on. It never did.